right, glad to have you back, and happy Democracy Day to you again. Well, many scholars, economists, and professionals have agreed that democracy is the best form of government, and it serves as a precondition for development. Its accountability mechanism, open participation, checks and balances, rule of law, respect of human rights are tantamount to good governance. Today, Nigeria celebrates 25 years of democracy in the country, which has a direct positive impact on economic and industrial development. The founder, chief consultant at B. Adedikpe Associates Limited, Dr. Biodun Adedikpe, is here with me to continue this conversation about what it means, democracy, to Nigeria's economy. Dr. Adedikpe, good afternoon and thank you for your time. Happy Democracy Day to you.
Thank you for having me on a special day like this in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you so much too for your time. Let me start with the president's speech, and I was able to get this out. For me, I am always interested in the economic, labor, and all the financial part of that speech. And the president is saying he understands with Nigerians, with the challenges we are facing at this time, considering reforms taken by his government. But he said, it is necessary that those steps are taken. Dr. Adedikpe, how does this come to you?
Well, for me, it's not a surprise because as a watcher of this economy in the last 40 plus years, I will liken the situation Nigeria is in right now as that of a patient who goes for medical consultation. Tests were conducted, diagnosis made, and then the doctor came out and said, I can see clearly you have an infection. That infection will require the following regimen of treatment. And some of these treatments are inconvenient, they are uncomfortable. But if you can live with this discomfort for this period of time, we'll get over this ailment. If it's like somebody infected, by malaria, and the medical personnel said the best treatment is to give you an injection. An injection is also comes with pains. So, but the assurance you have is that after the malaria sputum in your body has been destroyed by this medication, you should become fit and also energized and be able to go about your normal course of duty. So that is what I like in the situation Nigeria is in right now. And this situation did not arise overnight. And that's one thing I also want Nigerians to understand, that this came from a long history of poor management of our economy. That is the price we are all together paying today. And we must therefore also have the courage to deal with the issue so that we can have a better tomorrow than what we're having today.
A beautiful way to start, Dr. Adedikpe. And now, with focus on these policies, and the much talked about is fuel subsidy removal and, of course, liberalization of the currency, that's the exchange rate, which many believe that the impact, of course, is telling. We see inflation on the high side. We see CBN grappling with ways to rein in on inflation, and the interest rate is also on the high side. What do you make of this, and how long, what's the transition period like? Economists like you have said, we must go through this. But how long? When are we getting to the point where things will start to maybe get back to normal?
Yeah, thank you so very much for that. Now, anytime you are dealing with crisis, and that is for me looking at economies, sectors of it, industries, there are always three stages to getting out of the trouble. The first, if you are talking about, let's say, an enterprise, is to survive. Okay, that's the first stage when you encounter a crisis. How do we survive this crisis? Once you have survived, and that is the stage I would say Nigeria has already passed through. We passed through that stage of survival of these major policy shifts, which we must not forget are happening in the same context with global macroeconomic and social disruptions. Because when you put both in context, they recognize that we have done 1 year with this and we have survived it. So in which case, as you say in economics, you are moving towards a new equilibrium, right? So now the next stage to that is stability. So the question then, in my response to your question, would be, we have entered the phase of stability. And as noted in some of the data coming out in snipers here and there, okay? If you look, for example, at the foreign exchange market, you notice that in the last 2 months thereabout, the Naira has been moving within a certain band.
Yes.
Right? It will go up and then begin to gain value at both major markets, that's the official, and of course the roadside. So you notice that it has been moving within a particular range. That is a pointer to the likelihood of the second stage of stability in that market, which I expect to happen between now and, of course, before the end of the year. Why will I say end of the year? Because the summer period is also a period in Nigeria of intense demand for foreign currencies. So by the time we run through that and see how it plays out, my own view is that we'll achieve stability this year. And also now, the third stage, which is to restart growth. The reality is that our economy has been growing, no doubt. But as you rightly said, it is about inclusive growth. In which case, in my own estimation, that third stage will likely, in fact, very likely, enter that stage in year 2025, which is just next year. We begin to see the economic growth faster than we have seen in the last couple of years. Let me limit it to about 6-7 years. Okay? So we might see our economic growth faster. And there's already a pointer in that direction. You look at the growth rate for the first quarter of this year at 2.98% compared to 2.231% first quarter of 2023. That gives you an idea that this economy will grow stronger than what we had in 2023. So that is the way I look at it. I expect stability across the various major macroeconomic indices before end of this year, and then strong growth commencing in 2025.
The president touched on the labor issue, of course, that's around the national minimum wage, which government at this time is saying 62,000 is what they are offering labor. Labor is still saying 250,000 is where they stand. The question for you, sir, really is the economics of this, what it means. 494,000 naira, according to government workings, about 9.5 trillion naira annually. Our yearly budget is just above 20 trillion naira. So when we look at all of this, what's the reality in all of this? What do you see in all of these issues?
Well, I'm happy you also raised this because there have been a lot of contentious arguments and positions, perspectives, and I want to bring this on into the conversation. Now, all this while we've been talking about the numbers, but not many analysts are talking about the value that the disposable income commands. Now, the disposable income is what the employee takes home end of the month. Now, it is not so much at the quantum of that money. And that is what I see us laboring around, everybody talking about this new minimum wage. Rather, we should be talking about the value it will command. In which case, what can the average worker get as value, extract as value from what he or she receives? Which means we should not perennially focus on the quantum, but look at other ways that the government has been making efforts, and that is my own view to the government also, that what the government should be looking at is, where is that inflation basket that the National Bureau of Statistics uses in computing the rate of inflation? When you look at that, what are the major items? Food is number one. You have transportation, you have energy as major elements in that basket. So in what way can the government intervene in those spaces so that they provide viral, quality, and affordable public transportation? And then what can we do about the first two of the four elements of food security, which is availability and affordability, which means effort should be concentrated more on ramping up food production and supply to the market. I brought in supply because you can produce and still fall into the negative of post-harvest losses we've always talked about in Nigeria for decades. So in which case, the focus should be on how do we produce more food and also ensure that it becomes affordable and available. So if we pay attention to those, we've addressed transportation, we have addressed, of course, the issue of availability of food and affordability. The third critical element is energy. No doubt the government is in that direction. But we've made this argument for decades in Nigeria. It is not so much at the cost of energy like most analysts are making noise about right now. It's about the quality, and I'll give you an illustration. About 15 years ago, there was a study done that was brought out to show that the most expensive alternative source of power, which is the one you generate yourself, came from that small generator that Nigerians commonly call "I better pass my neighbor." Okay? The cost per kilowatt hour at that time was 16 naira per kilowatt hour. Now, the most efficient diesel generators were coming at 4 naira per kilowatt hour. And remember, I said 15 years ago. In which case, if you will factor inflation into that, today it is even a lot more expensive. Now, flip it on the other side. This is what my own company is experiencing, for example. Now, we pay more now because where my office is in the A-Band, that's Victoria Land in Lagos. That is A-Band, all right? So now, we receive the bill. Our electricity bill has gone up significantly. But at the same time, we've been experiencing power supply where my office is, like 24/7. So we don't use our generator any longer. So we don't need to buy diesel. We don't need to maintain it. We invested in the alternative of, what do we call it now? This inverter. It's batteries and all of this, plus solar. Yes, as a backup. But we don't run our generator any longer. So when we did the arithmetic, we found that, yes, we are paying more to a quad disco, quite all right. But the alternative, that's the operating cost of that, is significantly lower. Because what we are spending on diesel alone was more than what we are paying now as electricity bill. So for me, therefore, the issue should be, can we get power in such a way that we don't spend so much money? In fact, I said this also in past conversations, that we are burning more fuel running our generators than we're burning on the roads in Nigeria. And so if we don't need to burn fuel running generators, whichever way it goes, the saving there will take care of the additional cost of electricity. Moreover, electricity from the grid is of better quality than the one I generate either in my house, where I am, or in my office. So at the end of the day, in my own opinion, we are moving in the right direction. Now for Kobo.
That's serious. I must say the Band A thing, everyone seems to be talking about it, but yes, I agree with you that supply has been regular, at least for Band A users. I can testify to that, though we are paying so more. Let's talk about investments, which President Tinubu from day one has shown that he is the chief marketing officer of Nigeria. We see that. We've seen it all around, where he's visited, India. We can go on and on, all of the countries, even when we went to the Netherlands and all. But many talk about bureaucratic issues, private sector issues, corruption, and also other issues that can affect all of this. So do you see the expected outcome of all of these gatherings and meetings that the president has had? At the time, they said $30 billion is expected into the country as investment. Are we going to get this investment as expected?
All right. Excellent. Now, one fundamental thing in economics is if you want your economy to grow, you must create the space for capital formation. And that is where investments come in, either as foreign investments or domestic investment. What you are aiming at is to create new capital. We call it capital formation in economics. Now, what this means then is that you create an environment conducive for those that are bringing capital into your economy to do that easily. So in which case, it starts from our policies, number one, that are investment friendly. Number two, we talk about the execution of those policies. In which case, what we pronounce, the announcement effect that drives investors to look the way of Nigeria to be complemented with the actions we take. So that when they come, they truly find us, as we have said. Now, this government, coming from Mr. President, is where Nigeria is ready for business. And of course, for those of us who relate with foreign investors, we often hear such comments from them. That when a particular policy pronouncement is made, what they say is that Nigeria seems now to be ready for business. We cannot prove that until when a few of them come to test the waters and they find that truly the water is not found. In which case, what are those impediments to new investment? So in which case, the government must give attention to that, especially Trade, Industry and Investment Ministry. They must be on top of the game on a daily basis. And now it also means, for example, anytime an investor raises an impediment, let's say the issue of corruption or unfriendly business processes or even work processes or procedures in any of our government agencies, the government should respond to that as quickly as possible. Because if we truly are desperate for investment, it should show in our action. And that means then also, as a follow-up, like Mr. President said, there must be scorecards. How do we measure ourselves? For example, for me, if any particular marketing effort by the president brought a commitment, there should become you create a kind of scorecard around it. They committed to invest $20 billion in Nigeria. How much of that has come in within the first quarter of this year, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? So until we begin to measure performance in that manner, it will just remain at the level of an announcement. And if also there's any government official, no matter how high in the hierarchy, it could be a top functionary, if there is any evidence that this person has actually made it difficult for that investment objective of Mr. President to be achieved, there must be courage coming from Mr. President to either remove that person or maybe move the person to another ministry where he or she has the competence. So it should be of that nature. Those are the kind of things we hear from foreign investors. In the oil sector, for example, we hear of many that want to invest in the oil sector, making reference to the executive order signed by Mr. President in February this year. So, but a number of them are still tentative. So the interrogation, engagement should continue. Why are you still tentative? Some 3 months after you saw the executive order signed by President Tinubu that you responded to, with enthusiasm. So why is it that 3 months after we haven't seen you progress beyond that enthusiasm? So these are the kind of things that presidency must measure and follow through, so that we don't remain at the level of pronouncement and then hand clapping. We actually see new investments gain traction in Nigeria.
As much as I want to let you go, I think we have maybe 2 minutes if we can do this. Let's stay with the oil and gas industry and pricing of petroleum products. We know what happened before the oil boom, the stories that we talk about all of this and why we found ourselves where we are today. But now Dangote Refinery is saying by mid-July, production should come on stream. That's for petrol. And many think that this can help us reduce imports and all of that. What are the positives in this? Let's wrap up on that note for this administration.
Okay, let me stay, because of the time, I will stay with only 2 elements.
Okay.
And then give my own indication of that. Now, in any time you import refined petroleum products, yes, what it translates into is 85% of what you and I pay at the pump end is driven by the cost of bringing the product in, that is purchase and transportation, plus the exchange rate influence. So in which case, whether the exchange rate moves or not is a critical element when you import refined petroleum products. Also, the price of crude oil in the international oil market also influences that, because the refining cost added to that makes it more expensive. Now, it means then that one critical game changer is to refine products locally here. And that means Dangote Refinery, as we always said, is a game changer. And then we also understand there are 5 modular refineries also in operation currently. So if they operate, then the much money we used to spend importing refined products will be reduced significantly, if not eliminated. 39.1% of our imports in 2023 was basically refined petroleum products. That's 1. 2, now is the fact that they need to have access to feedstock. In order for that to happen, we need to produce more. And we've seen an improvement between last year, April, and this year, April, which is good news for Nigeria. We are producing more than we did a year ago. That is good news. But like we said on investment, we need to now create an environment that will make those new investments in oil production increase. But finally for me here, and that is what I really call the game changer, is that if we are going to reduce the pressure on the FX market for these refineries to buy their feedstock from offshore, then we need to consider selling crude oil to them in naira and not in dollar. Even if the price at which you sell is benchmarked against the international price, it doesn't matter. But so far as they need to pay for the feedstock in naira, we reduce the pressure we also put on the FX market. That will be the real game changer for us. And if that happens, we may see naira appreciate. And like, Aliko Dangote said in the interview on the visit last week, we may see the price actually come down significantly from where we are currently. That for me is a game changer for Nigeria.
Well, that will really be a good one, as Nigerians will definitely heave a sigh of relief. Founder, Chief Consultant, B. Adedipe Associates Limited, Dr. Biodun Adedipe. Thank you so much for your insights with data to back all of this for our discussion today on the show. Thank you, and do enjoy the Democracy Day.
Thank you for having me, Tolu. God bless you.
All right, there's time to review trading activity.